The first part of the NEAT evaluation and development process requires you to input some basic information which the system can then present back to you in a different way to help you then further develop and rethink your ideas. So we'll just run through to explain some of the details. So first of all, it asks you for your name because it will send communications to you about your module. It then asks for a code. Now, obviously, if your module exists, you can input the real code. This doesn't interact in any way with the current proposal and approval systems, so you don't need to worry about that. If your module doesn't have a code, it's just a code for the for the identification of this particular record within our system. So you can make up whatever you want. So I'm going to put my initials, AS100. You then are required to select the amount of cats that you plan your module to be and how many terms over which you will plan to deliver the primary learning opportunities. So in most cases, a 15-cat module at Warwick would run over one term. Now, hopefully, the assessment will hang over into the following vacation and maybe into subsequent terms, possibly over into term 3. But this is where the bulk of your teaching will be done, I guess. If, like me, you're teaching a 15-cat module in the third term and actually you use the first couple of weeks of term 3, if, like me, you're teaching a 15-cat module in term 2 and you have a few classes that run over into term 3, that's absolutely fine. Put it down as one term. This can be amended later, but this is just something to work with. So we'll pop that in. The next question then is about the number of hours that you plan to use for synchronous learning activities each week. Now, synchronous has traditionally been understood as physical contact time, so included in here would be being in the same room as students for a lecture or for workshops. But of course, because of the vast and rapid development of kind of online supported learning, we now have online workshops, maybe even online synchronous lectures where the member of staff is delivering the lecture at a particular time and students are expected to be there at the same time. This also might include potentially an online discussion. So the students and the tutor will be synchronously at the same time engaging in a discussion forum, in which case it would go in here. Of course, what this doesn't include is the learning opportunities that students are expected to be undertaking asynchronously from the educator, so in their own time and planned around their own schedule. So for the purposes of the exercise, I'm going to imagine my module is quite traditional. I'm going for a 1-hour lecture and a 2-hour workshop every week. So I'm going for 3. It doesn't matter if you plan to change things. Maybe week 1 is different to week 2. And maybe there's sort of a skipping cycle, or there'll be some kind of change around the beginning or the end. Just put in the most common number of synchronous work learning hours per week at this stage, and we can edit it later. So then we're asked about assessment, and first of all, if we have more than 4 assessments. Now, if we say yes, what the system will do is just prompt us to say, this is kind of unusual. Are you sure about this? And of course, if you have a good pedagogical reason, and you definitely, because of your vision, you want 6 assessments and you think it fits pedagogically, then of course you should not be, this is not saying you can't do it, and you'll press yes. What you'll then be told, however, then is that actually this system can't at the moment quite handle that, and you need something a bit more bespoke. So get in touch. It's very easy to do, but it just needs some manual intervention. Let's imagine we decided actually, 4 is quite a lot. Let's have 2. Don't want to overload my students with lots of assessment. So we can go back. So we're going to say, do you have more than 4 assessments? So no. And then it asks for some just loose details. So test. So my first assessment is going to be called test 1. Test more for the example of testing the form as opposed to it being a test, but I'm going to say that's 50% because there's 2 of them. And then there's a question which you may or may not have an answer to. So it's, as part of this process, we are going to be required to think, well, how many hours of notional education and assessment time do we think students are going to be dedicating to this piece of assessment? Let's say it is a class test, and this includes actually doing the test and also the number of hours that we might expect them to use for that test. To revise for that test. Now, at this stage, you may not really have a good idea, so you can leave it blank, or you can put in a value. So I'm going to say maybe 5 hours. So say the test takes half an hour, 4.5 hours revision specifically for that test. But the rest of the learning for the test will come from the synchronous and the asynchronous learning opportunities. So I'm going to break it down like that, where you draw the line between what's primarily learning and what's primarily focusing on participating in the assessment of that learning is up to you. It doesn't matter. The only important thing is that you're consistent. So as to kind of where you draw the line, or at least try to be as consistent as possible. But the system the whole point of this tool is to help you with this thinking, because it's not something that we've traditionally done to a great degree. So then, is there another assessment? Yes, because I'm going to have 2. So I'm going to call this test 2. I'm going to say it's 50%. Unfortunately, this system can't tell you that that's coherent. So at least at this stage, although it will do later. And then how many hours? So it's the same. It's a test. It's the same number of hours. So it's the same credit. I'm going to say that it's the same number of kind of notional hours to revise and then to complete this assessment. So do I have any other assessments? No. Submit the form. What this then does is it organizes the information into a specific assessment tool that we've designed, and in a moment could take up to 5 minutes, but actually an email should appear to tell us that that has been completed. Indeed, there it is. So if we just open this up, this is quite nice because initially there should be an Excel file attached here. Now Outlook is still scanning the Excel spreadsheet because it's got macros in it as part of the security check. So the email will then, writing to us, the email will tell us that it might take up for a minute for the scan to complete, but once the scan is complete, the Excel file will appear here. It then wants me to open the sheet and enable the macros. After I've saved it to somewhere secure, open the sheet and enable the macros. This allows the full operation of the tool. And then the tool invites me to undertake a series of more in-depth processes of analysis and planning as to what I'm going to be expecting from my students in terms of the time that they're going to be investing in this module. So that brings us to this stage. The next part of the video will pick up from here.